Hello there! This is Motoring Today, the Philippines' premier and longest-running weekly motoring news and features electronic magazine.
You are watching this year's edition of our year-end special on the year that was in motoring. A look back into events, issues, and happenings that are affecting motoring and the motorists of year 2019. And certainly there was no lack of these this year, either for good or bad, with immediate effect or with hope for foreseeable benefits. And when we talk about motoring and motorists, we are talking not only of motor vehicle owners and drivers, but also commuters and commuting, pedestrians and passengers, and yes, land transport operators and operations.
Of course, we also talk here of government officials, departments, agencies and organizations, and the frontliners, those who deal with first-hand with the public, although they may be doing more of the affecting than being affected. And let's not forget the transport group as well, as a private sector involved in providing transport infrastructure and other services, which do both the affecting and being affected. So, stay with us as we take this break. When we return, let's see who and what are affecting motoring and motorists in the first 3 months of the year.
This Motoring Today year-end special episode is brought to you by Honda Cars Philippines, Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Prudential Guarantee, Suzuki Philippines, and Toyota Motor Philippines.
Suzuki all-new Ertiga.
Life is beating fast. Find what you're waiting for.
Seven-seater in style. All-new Ertiga debut.
The things that make my day. My mini-me. My kind of jam. My passion. My blend of coffee. My inspiration. That's all good with the all-new Vios. My Vios, my drive.
Hello again, welcome back to Motoring Today's year-end special on the year that was in motoring.
The start of each new year almost always comes with the airing of new plans or projects with promises of solving existing ones or improving whatever needs improvement.
Or the implementation of past year's projects postponed because of our long observance of Christmas and New Year holidays.
The beginning of 2019 was no different.
In January, the MMDA started to implement what was supposed to have been started in September 2018. The dismantling and construction of a wider, more structurally sound Estrella-Pantaleon Bridge connecting the cities of Makati and Mandaluyong. This necessitates the closure of the bridge, which means more traffic congestion in the said cities by a project meant to cut short travel time between them. The MMDA identified alternate routes to help motorists, but longer travel times in the metropolis are inevitable. By the way, the steel frames from the dismantled bridge were donated to the province of Pangasinan, which will be used to build what will be called the Santiago Bridge. The MMDA moved to clear identified alternate routes of obstructions while strictly implementing no parking regulations. But soon after, the MMDA also announced the partial or full closure to traffic of more bridges undergoing repairs. These include the northbound lanes of Concordia Bridge in Paco, Manila and the Nagtahan Bridge in Santa Mesa, Manila. The MMDA also announced that the decision to close 46 provincial bus terminals along EDSA is final and directed the operators to begin informing the public about that inevitability. The closures would be enforced once the so-called super terminals for provincial buses north and south of Metro Manila begin operations. They are claimed to be capable of holding more than 4,000 buses. MMDA expects traffic to ease when the provincial bus terminals on EDSA are gone. But that may not be soon enough for motorists and commuters already suffering from daily traffic congestion. The plan to build a super terminal south of Metro Manila is still in the site inspection stage. The choke points and congestion around the elliptical road in Quezon City also received attention from the MMDA, which closed off a portion of North Avenue, feeding vehicles into the large rotunda while conducting a dry run of a new yellow lane policy meant to discourage swerving while encouraging lane discipline. All these necessitated some complicated rerouting schemes which motorists and commuters found led to more traffic misery for them. Adding more woe to motorists and commuters are more rerouting schemes put in place as construction continues for the Skyway Stage 3 that will affect traffic in Balintawak. This will connect the SLEX to the NLEX from Buendia and Makati to Bagong Barrio in Caloocan. While traffic congestion is expected to build in many parts of Metro Manila owing to ongoing road and bridges projects, some parts are expected to see lighter traffic owing to some road projects being completed and opened for public use. Among these is the NLEX Harbor Link Segment 10 that was finally opened to motorists and public transport in the first quarter of the year. Members of the Society of Philippine Motoring Journalists were given a tour of the completed Segment 10 road from Karohatan in Valenzuela City to the new Caloocan Interchange in C3 Road. According to a briefing, this opening will solve many traffic issues in many areas and cut travel time from C3 to NLEX to just 10 minutes. When the NLEX Harbor Link was officially opened to motorists and cargo haulers, it came with an unpleasant surprise. At least for motorists who use the NLEX, operators started collecting toll fees amounting to 55 pesos for Class 1 vehicles, 68 pesos for Class 2 trucks, and 74 pesos for Class 3 trucks. That was not the surprise. After all, this is a toll road. The surprise was the toll adjustment on the NLEX, an increase in the flat rate of 45 pesos to 55 pesos for Class 1 vehicles for the section from Balintawak and Minada Avenue toll plazas in Quezon City to Bacaue and Valenzuela City, the Bulacan towns of Maykawayan and Marilao. Class 2 vehicles on the same corridor will now pay an additional 23 pesos and Class 3 vehicles will pay an additional 29 pesos. Motorists who now bear the higher cost of using the NLEX should console themselves with the thought that the NLEX Corporation continually pursues enhanced customer satisfaction and delivers services they deserve as attested to by the ISO certifications it has attained and maintains through the years of constant audits. These include the latest version of certifications, ISO 9001-2015, ISO 14001-2015, and ISO 45001-2018 conferred by DQS Holdings. The bridge and roadworks being undertaken offer benefits that will only be felt after their completion, but their immediate effect is worsening traffic condition in Metro Manila. The DOTR and the DILG soon enlisted the help of the PNP Highway Patrol Group to help with traffic management. An arrangement was signed by the DOTR, the DILG, and the HPG that, among other things, designates the latter as the enforcement arm of the DOTR in managing traffic and enforcing traffic rules and regulations in Metro Manila and nearby regions. Also in January, the LTO aired a proposal to revise exams or tests to ensure that those applying for driver's licenses had the necessary knowledge, aptitude, and skills to operate specific motor vehicles as defined in the Restriction Code of Licenses. A technical working group will study their proposals to come up with a two-step driver's license testing system, a general one and a specialized exam related to the type of vehicle to be driven based on the Restriction Code. At present, written driver's exams are basically the same for those applying for non-professional or professional driver's licenses. The LTFRB Air plans to increase the subsidy that government provides to POV operators and drivers who undertakes to replace their old units with new ones complying with new mandated specifications. Under the government's POV modernization program, the subsidy is pegged at 5% of equity for units that cost 1.6 million pesos. Meanwhile, the LTFRB plans to go around and meet with financial institutions supporting the PUVMP, the manufacturers, importers, and distributors of PUVs compliant with recommended standards, government agencies, and departments involved in the program to ensure its success. Touting the PUVMP's success and progress, the Office of Transport Cooperatives, or OTC, reported the accreditation of 36 new transport cooperatives that will make them eligible to avail themselves of subsidies and other incentives under the program. This increases the number of accredited transport cooperatives to 681. Transport Secretary Art Tugari, on the other hand, has directed the OTC to fast-track the accreditation process. The DOTR has announced the start of the rehabilitation of the MRT-3 early this year. Aside from the rehabilitation of the rails, power supply, signal system, public address system, and CCTV network, also to be repaired are the escalators and elevators of the 13 train stations. The department assured the public that it will keep at least 15 trains in operation daily while the rehabilitation is being undertaken. Meanwhile, fares won't be increased. While the MRT-3 rehabilitation is underway, efforts are being undertaken to get the first sets of Dalian trains deployed and in operations. The DOTR said 3 Dalian train sets have undergone validation and test runs to see if they can be deployed safely and seamlessly into MRT-3 operations. The Transport Department is finalizing the acceptance documentation needed for the deployment of the Dalian trains. The electric jeepney initiative being undertaken by private groups in partnership with government continues to gain traction. 15 e-jeepneys complying with government-encouraged PUV specifications, side entrance, GPS tracking, automated fare collection system, CCTV cameras were rolled out as part of the eSakay program. The e-jeepneys are plying from the Buendia MRT station in Makati to the Mandaluyong City Hall via Jupiter Street route. The e-jeepney fare ranges from 9 to 15 pesos. The New Year sees the holding of the 3rd Tricycle Operators and Drivers Association Summit, TODA Summit for short, at the Cuneta Astrodome in Pasay City. While tricycle transport is primarily regulated by local government units, 18 national government agencies sent representatives to the summit. This is because among the main subjects for discussion are livelihood programs, scholarships and grants, health and social security for families whose main income comes from tricycle transport. During the summit, shifting from gas-powered trikes to battery-powered e-trikes was advocated by private groups and the government. President Duterte led the turnover of e-tricycles to the city of Mandaluyong. The TBWH is not to be left behind in the New Year rush to launch new projects, breaking ground for the construction of the Ciudad de Victoria interchange. The 635 million peso interchange project includes the construction of a 4-lane project connecting the Manila North Road and the Santa Maria Bocaue bypass road, the rehabilitation of a near 2-kilometer Ciudad de Victoria road, the construction of a 1.3-kilometer road connecting to the Patubig Road leading to Marilao. The Ciudad de Victoria interchange will also serve as an entry and exit toll gate for north and southbound traffic of the NLEX. When completed, it is expected to help ease traffic and queuing of vehicles at the Bocaue interchange. Another groundbreaking ceremony is for the PNR Clark Phase 1 project, another major undertaking of the Duterte administration's Build 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 program. Phase 1 of the project, that envisions the operation of high-speed train service from Manila to Clark, Pampanga, will construct a 37.6-kilometer railway system from Tutuban in Manila to Malolos in Bulacan. The railway system will have 10 stations in Tutuban, Solis, Caloocan, Valenzuela, Maykawayan, Marilao, Bocaue, Balagtas, Giginto, and Malolos, plus a 14-hectare depot in Valenzuela City. The rail service will have 13 train sets composed of 8 cars each. The trains will have top speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. The railroad tracks, train sets, and stations will use Japanese design and engineering. Into the new year, the DOTR continues to be under public pressure to allow the operation of motorcycle taxis. This mode of transport has become popular among commuters seeking cheap and fast transport within traffic-congested Metro Manila, especially when it became so easy to hail them using the Angkas app, and in spite of its apparent illegality as motorcycle for public transport still have to be expressly allowed by government authorities. The DOTR is reduced to seeking public understanding for its dilemma in the face of a Supreme Court temporary restraining order against motorcycle taxis. DOTR officials said its technical working group is working with motorcycle taxi operators to find a way to legitimize their operations. Meanwhile, they said Congress could solve the problem by enacting a law allowing the use of motorcycles for public transport. Some congressmen and senators, however, have come out in support of motorcycle taxis and their ride-hailing apps and urged the DOTR to allow their operations even while many bills on this are pending in both the upper chamber and the lower house of Congress. Congressional support for motorcycle riders and owners' issues may or may not have been a direct result of the attendance of some senators and House representatives and candidates for re-election or election at the Riders Assembly in San Juan. More than 1,000 motorcycle riding representatives from riders' clubs and associations attended the assembly to air grievances, advocate for their rights, raise awareness for road safety, and express support for legalization of motorcycle taxis. A covenant was signed and a rider's agenda presented and approved. Jaywalkers who have been issued citation tickets for crossing streets outside of pedestrian lanes are warned to settle fines or undergo community service. If not, they will be placed in the alarm list of the National Bureau of Investigation, and it will be tough for them when applying for NBI clearances for work or travel. After a lot of back and forth proposals and recommendations, studies, and restudies, the DOTR has finally signed the contract for the design and construction of Area A of the Unified Grand Central Station, also known as the Common Station, that will link the LRT-1, MRT-3, MRT-7, and the Metro Manila Subway. The Common Station, to be built on a lot at the north end of EDSA, will have 3 areas. Area A to be undertaken by the DOTR, Area B under Ayala Land, and Area C under the MRT-7 project under San Miguel Corporation. Area A is scheduled to be completed by 2020. Late in the first quarter of the year, when road and bridge rehabilitation projects began to visibly worsen traffic in the metropolis, especially on EDSA, MMDA's proposal to ban driver-only cars from certain lanes or segments of EDSA at given hours of the day were again aired, which again prompted debate in social and other media about the pros and cons of curtailing a motorist's right to use his car 24/7. MMDA cited studies that 90% of cars on EDSA are privately owned and more than half of these have only drivers in them. Finally, in the first quarter, an event occurred that should have immediate impact, but of the positive kind. The LTO signs a contract with PLDT, who won the bid to become its primary internet service provider. The LTO believes that with 2 redundant lease lines, its 229 district and branch offices nationwide are assured of reliable, cost-efficient, high-availability internet connectivity, no more downtime, and frequent transaction delays.
If there is any central theme to the first quarter of the year that was in motoring, it has to be the cure to our woes, mainly traffic congestion, inefficient mass transport, poor infrastructure. Will first make us feel worse before we get to feel better.
Please continue to stay with us while we take another break. And let's find out when we return if this theme will spill into the second quarter of the year. This Motoring Today year-end special episode is brought to you by Honda Cars Philippines, Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Prudential Guarantee, Suzuki Philippines, and Toyota Motor Philippines.
The things that make my day. My mini-me. My kind of jam. My passion. My blend of coffee. My inspiration. That's all good with the all-new Vios. My Vios, my drive.
Welcome back to Motoring Today's year-end special on the year that was in motoring.
We'll now look into the second quarter of 2019's happenings and occurrences. April almost always means the Semana Santa, the annual Lenten season, when most Filipino families head out of the city to home provinces, in past times to observe Holy Week in more austere fashion, but of late to better enjoy the long holiday break in sun, sand, and surf. It also means a horde of vehicles leaving Metro Manila, congesting expressways, road accidents, car breakdowns, all sorts of emergencies resulting from too many people and vehicles out on the road at the same time. And the annual search for new words to add to Oplan, to describe the government's preparedness to meet any and all emergencies arising from the exodus, to the provinces at the beginning, back to the metro at the end. This year, the main Oplan is DOTR's Oplan Biyaheng Ayos, Semana Santa 2019. medics and mechanics man stations set up on strategic points along main highways, crossroads, and junctions, ready to help out all in need. And overmanned help desks in bus terminals, airports, and piers. Private companies and organizations also pitch in to make it safe for travelers during the Holy Week. The Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation, or MPTC, has been using Safe Trip Mo, Sagot Ko for its motorist assistance program for those using its tollways, NLEX, SCTEX, and Cavitex, rendering such services as free calls, drinking water, basic mechanic services, first aid treatment, and more importantly, free Wi-Fi at what it calls SMSK motorist camps. In the second quarter of the year, the LTO began trying out the Eider Robot, a plate-making machine that can produce 700 license plates an hour or 5,600 for every 8-hour shift. The Eider Robot apparently was so efficient during the testing that LTO plans to acquire more so it can meet the increasing rise in demand for motorcycle license plates. The LTO said additional fees will be charged vehicle owners for the Eider Robot-produced plates, but assures us it will be reasonable. Plate-making robots are solving our license plate problem. Also solving a problem, decongesting traffic in Manila while providing efficient and integrated public transport into and out of the metro, is the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX. Isuzu Philippines shot two birds with one stone for motoring journalists, hosting them to a tour of the PITX while at the same time letting them experience the attractions of the new Isuzu modernized jeepneys operating out of the ultra-modern terminal. The Isuzu PUVs comply with the specifications of Philippine national standards for Class 2 PUVs with side-facing seat configuration, side door, and powered by Euro 4 compliant 4JH1TC diesel engine. Prime vehicles for those looking to avail themselves of PUV MP subsidies. And Isuzu's PUVs are proving to be the vehicle of choice for many cooperatives participating in the government's PUV modernization program. The Lukban Genesis Transport Service and multi-purpose cooperative members signed up to acquire 88 Isuzu PUVs to ply the 60-kilometer Lukban to Tayabas route in Quezon. It's already the second quarter of the year, and the DOTR is reporting that Phase 1 of the Mindanao Railway project will begin within the year. The start was initially scheduled for third quarter of 2018 until funding committed by Chinese interests were somehow delayed. The Mindanao Railway project envisions a network of 1,532 kilometers of circumferential and spur lines connecting the two Davao provinces, Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, General Santos City, and Zamboanga. Phase 1 compromises a 102-kilometer railway line connecting Tagum, Davao, and Digos with 8 stations and a depot in Tagum. Still on railway transport, the LRT2 East Extension project has entered into the final phase of construction in the second quarter of the year. The railway tracks have all been put in place, and the installation of the electromechanical systems have begun. This includes signaling system, overhead catenary system, telecommunication system, and the power supply and distribution system. The final phase of the LRT2 East Extension project will see its integration into the LRT2 line. Final completion is scheduled on the fourth quarter of 2020. That is how long commuters have to wait to benefit from faster and more convenient travel to and from Masinag in Antipolo, Rizal. Meanwhile, the LRT2 asked its riders to expect some inconvenience as it will begin pulling out trains from service to refit them with new air conditioning units. There will be fewer units running until the aircon refitting work has been done on all its trains. At the same time, it is repairing out-of-commission trains and putting them back in operation. Aside from this, LRT2 is acquiring 14 more additional train sets, which are expected to be delivered by 2020 in time for the integration into the operations of the LRT2 East Extension. In April, the SBMJ conducted another forum, this time centering on the government's Build, Build, Build program with DPWH Secretary Mark Villar, NLEX Corporation President and General Manager Luigi Bautista, and SVP for Communications and Stakeholder Management Junji Kimbo as guests and panelists. Secretary Villar discussed projects in Manila and across the nation in his purview. Attorney Kimbo discussed the NLEX Harbor Link Segment 10. The MMDA plan announced in the first quarter of 2019 about ridding EDSA of all provincial bus terminals is being pushed through. The Metro Manila Council has issued a resolution prohibiting the issuance of business permits to all public utility bus terminals operating along EDSA. The MMDA hopes to close down all terminals by the middle of the year. After the Holy Week, the MMDA aired plans to strictly implement the regulation banning provincial buses from unloading or picking up passengers along EDSA or national roads in Metro Manila. they can only do so at respective terminals. The MMDA also encountered provincial bus operators to use the integrated transport terminals government set up in the periphery of Metro Manila. All this to reduce the number of vehicles on EDSA and decongesting traffic. A dry run was placed to begin the implementation of the plan to ban provincial buses from EDSA, but this was postponed until the MMDA, the DOTR, and the LTFRB have talks with provincial bus operators to thresh out implementing guidelines for the ban. In the second quarter of the year, groundbreaking ceremonies for the construction of the LRT-1 Cavite Extension Project was held. After years of delays, actual construction work should soon begin for infrastructure and facilities to extend LRT-1 from the Baclaran Station to Bacoor in Cavite, passing Parañaque and Las Piñas. 8 brand new stations are to be built, along with 11.7 kilometers of rail lines. Once completed, authorities said it would be possible to commute from Bacoor to Manila in 25 minutes. The first 5 stations are expected to become operational by 2021. After watching the MRT-3 operations continue to deteriorate in the hands of various maintenance providers and contractors, government decided to transfer its maintenance and rehabilitation back to its original designer, builder, and service provider, Sumitomo Corporation of Japan. Sumitomo Corporation and its technical partner Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and its Philippine subsidiary TES Philippines formally took over as MRT rehabilitation and maintenance service provider in May. The group will undertake the overhaul of all MRT-3's 72 light rail vehicles, replace all mainland tracks, rehabilitate power and overhead catenary systems, upgrade signaling, communications, and CCTV systems, and fix all of MRT-3's escalators and elevators, among other system repairs and improvements. It will take time for the rehabilitation to be completed, 26 months according to the project's timeline. By then, 15 to 20 trains will be operating at peak hours. The operating speed doubled from 30 to 60 kilometers per hour, and the time waiting between trains at stations down to 3.5 minutes.
Also in the second quarter, Angkas, the motorcycle ride-hailing app operator, staged what it called the Angkas Safety Fiesta. The event held seminars on motorcycle and road safety, earthquake response, and preventive maintenance. Among its main objectives is to call for government to allow it to resume operations as well as to push for motorcycle rider rights. In partnership with TESDA, the DOTR launched the Chofer Escolar training program to provide technical assistance to drivers and operators as part of the PUV modernization program. The first seminars under the program were held in Pangasinan and Davao, benefiting hundreds of jeepney drivers and operators, as well as rebel returnees and indigenous peoples. The training program imparts mechanical and other technical skills needed by drivers and operators of PUVs, as well as knowledge needed to become entrepreneurs. The Riders' Assembly, the Angkas Safety Fiesta, pressure from congressmen and senators may have led to Transportation Secretary Art Tugade finally approving the recommendation of the Technical Working Group for the pilot implementation of motorcycle taxi operations in the country. The DOTR issued general guidelines for ride-hailing apps like Angkas to participate in the pilot operations, a 6-month period to find out if motorcycle taxis are indeed safe and convenient for commuters. The outcome of the pilot implementation will determine whether motorcycle taxi operations will be legitimized by an act of Congress or by executive fiat. Read the latter as by DOTR, LTO, and LTFRB, Secretary Tugade said that this shows that government was responsive to public opinion on issues. Angkas was soon retraining its rider partners to ensure they all can safely ferry passengers and outfitting them with vests with reflectors to be easily seen on the road and straps to help passengers hold on to them on the ride. Another occurrence that showed government can be responsive to pleas and petitions from the public is when the LTFRB stepped in to disallow Grab from charging customers 50 pesos every time they cancel rides. Meanwhile, Grab Philippines is asking the government to permanently allow hatchbacks to be used for transport services. In the early days of ride-hailing app services, transport authorities temporarily allowed the entry of hatchbacks to meet the rising demand. This was for a 3-year transition period. With a deadline approaching, hatchback owners providing transport services are asking for permanent status as TNVs, accompanied by the early end of the transition period. Grab and Angkas are apps to help commuters. Another app called Crocstack was launched to help motorists as well as commuters while on the road as pedestrians. Developed by Janko Information Technology Solutions, CrocsTech is a road safety app that alerts users to dangers while on the road. This also helps users be more mindful of others on the road and walkways. With half the year nearly over, a segment of the C5 Southlink, a project of the MPTC and its subsidiary Cavitex Infrastructure, was announced to be opened to motorists by August of 2019. According to DPWH Secretary Mark Villar, the C5 Southlink segment will help motorists travel faster from Merville Parañaque to Taguig via a bridge crossing over the Slex and the Skyway at grade level and ease traffic congestion at Salis Bridge and Road, as well as the East and West Service Road. When the whole 7.7-kilometer C5 Southlink is completed, a network of toll roads with 3 interchanges, the R1 Cavitex Interchange, Merville Interchange, and Sucat Interchange, will provide faster and more direct links from the Cavitex to Sucat and C5.
A lot happened in the second quarter that sought to solve our transport and commuting woes. Again, some with immediate effect.
And some with promised benefits in the future. We'll learn more about the year 2019 when we return after this break.
This Motoring Today year-end special episode is brought to you by Honda Cars Philippines, Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Prudential Guarantee, Suzuki Philippines, and Toyota Motor Philippines.
The things that make my day. My mini-me. My kind of jam. My passion. My blend of coffee. My inspiration. That's all good with the all-new Vios. My Vios, my drive.
Welcome back and thank you for sticking with us on our year-end special on the year that was in motoring.
We're now in the third quarter of the year.
Just around the third quarter of the year, Angkas gained support from an unexpected source, the Highway Patrol Group, which this year has again been given the task of enforcing traffic rules and regulations and helping ease congestion, particularly on EDSA. But not so surprising, as the expression of support came at a press briefing for Angkas's donation of 50 helmets for the HPG's motorcycle riding force. 5 minutes from Cubao to Makati or Makati to Cubao along EDSA, this was a goal set by President Duterte for transport authorities, the MMDA and the HPG. Meetings were held and suggestions aired, including moving the motorcycle lane next to the yellow lanes for buses. An HPG officer says 5 minutes is doable only if motorists strictly observe traffic regulations. No one has come out to say they have successfully traveled from Makati to Cubao in 5 minutes. In the third quarter of the year, OFW is looking to contribute in a more direct way to the country's progress and economy beyond remitting dollars and adding to the National Treasury's foreign currency reserve, had a dialogue with officials of the DOTR and other relevant agencies, mostly engineers and highly skilled workers in specialized fields related to construction. The OFWs offer their skills and expertise for use in major government infrastructure projects back home. In short, they were tired of living away from families and looking for local work. In response, the DOTR said they would gladly hire the OFWs and would encourage major contractors and government projects to take in OFWs. In a bid to carry over the momentum gained in the first half of the year by the PUV modernization program to the second half of 2019, the LTFRB and private sector partners launched the Modern PUV Caravan 2019 with the theme Arangkada ng Pagbabago tungo sa kaunlaran. The caravan, to be brought across regions nationwide, showcased the benefits of modernizing the PUV sector by shifting to new, more efficient, safer and convenient PUVs that comply with government safety as well as emission standards and law. The launch of the caravan coincided with announcements of new routes and franchises to be opened as part of the PUV modernization program. Aside from the modern PUV Caravan, the LTFRB held what it called the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program simultaneous nationwide launch. LTFRB Chairman Martin Delgar III had a better moniker, calling it the one-time big-time launch. On the same day, programs were held in various cities and regions, again touting the benefits of the PUV Modernization Program for drivers, operators, and the general public. The new PUVs available under the program, the incentives available to PUV MP participants to make the shift more affordable and profitable. The one-time, big-time nationwide PUV MP launch also stressed the message that PUV MP is not about replacing the jeepneys and other aging PUVs or taking away the drivers' and operators' livelihood, but to provide them opportunities to modernize their operations and the country's land transport system. Meanwhile, the LTFRB announced that it was still accepting applications for new taxi franchises as part of the PUV Modernization Program to address the demand for more taxi units brought about by the growing population, rapid economic development, and growth in tourism. The LTFRB opened 5,000 slots for new taxi franchises. Only 100 new taxi franchises have been awarded, according to the LTFRB. The franchises are open to applicants to operate from a minimum of 100 units to a maximum of 1,000 units that comply with MC 2015-004. Electric vehicles are slowly but steadily making its presence felt in the streets and even national roads in the country. E-trikes are increasingly seen operating in some cities and municipalities, and there's growing concern about slow three-wheelers powered by batteries ridden on many barangays in Metro Manila and elsewhere. The Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines wants to hasten this growth and has been holding annual summits to showcase electric vehicles and their benefits to the economy as well as to society in general. The EVAP held the 7th Philippine Electric Vehicle Summit in July at the SMX Convention Center at the Mall of Asia complex in Pasay. Aside from showcasing electric vehicle models and units now available in the country and new technology being developed, the summit highlighted efforts to establish a national regulatory framework for the use of electric vehicles and the establishment of charging stations. The summit also served to emphasize the electric vehicle industry as a key contributor to achieving climate resilience, energy security, and sustainable growth. The government rolled out the Build Media Tour of major infrastructure projects being undertaken with the help of the private sector. Among the first to be conducted is the media tour hosted by DOTR and its MRT7 concessionaire, San Miguel Corporation, that revealed that the 23-kilometer rail line from North Avenue in Quezon City to San Jose del Monte in Bulacan is nearly half complete. With construction of stations, work on elevated, at-grade, and underground guideways, foundation work for alignments going on as scheduled, partial operations of the MRT7 should begin by the end of 2021. Already, the trains from South Korea are ready for delivery. The BBB Media Tour next inspected the extent of construction already done for the Unified Grand Central Station, also known as the Common Station, at the north end of EDSA in Quezon City, where end stations of the LRT1, MRT3, MRT7, and the Metro Manila Subway would meet. Ayala Land has started construction of Area B of the Common Station back in 2017. The DOTR initiated the start of construction for Area A last February. The final stop of the BBB Media Tour was an inspection of the construction site of the Emerald Station of the LRT2 East Extension project. The DOTR said that as of June, the entire project was 62% complete. Construction of the elevated viaduct is finished. The Emerald Station is almost 90% complete. The Masinog Station, 87% complete, while design and build of the 2 additional stations were being undertaken. Meanwhile, the notice to proceed has been issued for the electromechanical installations. The target date for the start of the LTRT2 operations remains the 4th quarter of 2020. In the 2nd quarter of the year, Grab Philippines asked government to allow hatchbacks to be used as transport network vehicles permanently. Hatchbacks were allowed as TNVS only for a 3-year transition period, beginning in March of 2018. Around 55,000 hatchbacks had been entered into the LTFRB master list of TNVS. During the 3rd quarter, after consulting with stakeholders and officials of other government transport agencies, Tugade directed the LTFRB to allow hatchbacks in the master list to continue operating as TNVs even as LTFRB moves to amend memorandum circulars to allow the permanent classifications of hatchbacks as TNVs. It was announced late in the 2nd quarter and happened around the middle of the 3rd quarter. This is about the opening of the Cavitec C5 link flyover to Mururis, with 3 lanes going in either direction of the flyover that spans across the SLEX and Skyway at grade level, it provides an alternative and perhaps faster access to motorists from Parañaque, Las Piñas, or Cavite to C5 in Taguig. This should help in easing the daily congestions of Sales Interchange near Villamor Air Base as well as the SLEX East and West service roads. The DOTR continues to move forward with efforts to have unified standards for the enactment and enforcement of speed limits on national roads, streets, and highways in municipalities, cities, provinces, and regions nationwide. The DOTR and LTO signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Imagine Law, a public interest law organization, on the training of LTO personnel on the proper and effective enforcement of speed limits. The MOU also commits the DOTR, LTO, and Imagine Law to work together in assisting LGUs to set and enforce speed limits. The 3-day Phil Bus and Truck Expo 2019 became the perfect venue for the 4th Transport Cooperatives National Congress, in which discussion centered on the government's PUV modernization program. The expo itself was all about manufacturers and distributors of buses and trucks calling for support for government efforts to modernize the country's transport systems and industries. Modernizing the transport system can lower the health risk of both commuters and drivers, normalize driver work hours, increase the driver's guaranteed take-home pay, and reduce overall travel time by about 20%, according to the participants of the expo. Also, in the third quarter of the year, the MMDA intensified efforts to reclaim roads and sidewalks like those in Baclaran taken over by vendors and illegally parked vehicles and other obstructions. The DILG earlier gave local government units making up Metro Manila 60 days to clear their streets, especially those designated as Mabuhay lanes or identified as alternate routes for motorists, cleared of obstructions, vendors, and illegal structures. MMDA's clearing operations were supported by the mayors of Pasay and Parañaque, respectively Imelda Calixto, Rubiano, and Edwin Olivares. MMDA vowed to revisit cleared areas to ensure the vendors don't return and roads and sidewalks remain clear of obstructions. MMDA vowed to do the same in other cities of Metro Manila, which have similar problems. Among the first to also air support for MMDA clearing operations are Mayor Vico Soto of Pasig City and Mayor Mike Ponce of Pateros. The clearing operations discovered and dismantled an illegal terminal in Barangay San Joaquin, Pasig. Even barangay halls encroaching on streets or sidewalks didn't escape clearing operations. In Quezon City, the Barangay Damayang Lagi Hall along E. Rodriguez Street and the office of the District Traffic Enforcement Unit Traffic Sector 1 along A. Bonifacio Corner Cloverleaf Bridge, Balintawak were demolished. By September, the mayors of cities and towns comprising Metro Manila were reporting all too positive feedback of operations to clear streets in respective jurisdictions during a Metro Manila Council meeting. Parañaque City Mayor Edwin Olivares said clearing operations continue in vendor-infested Baclaran. Pasay City Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano said major thoroughfares have been cleared, while 75% of the barangay roads have yet to be cleared. Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto reported that 50 to 60% of national and secondary roads have been cleared. An official representing Quezon City said 142 barangays have been cooperative in the clearing operations and that majority of the Mabuhay lanes have been cleared. The MMDA then urged the LGUs to ensure the streets and sidewalks cleared to remain clear to prevent the vendors and illegally parked cars from returning. Despite intensified efforts to clear the Mabuhay lanes and secondary streets identified as alternate routes as a way around the many road and bridge closures, traffic congestion continues to get worse on EDSA and other major thoroughfares in Metro Manila. This prompted the MMDA to hand over responsibility for traffic management of some segments of EDSA to the PNP-HPG. Beginning in the final month of the third quarter, the HPG motorized patrols began to be more visible in EDSA, strictly enforcing the yellow lane and other traffic regulations. MMDA constables and other frontliners work in hazardous conditions managing traffic in the middle of the streets, especially at night, in the rain, and when visibility is low. That's why a donation of 100 brand new reflectorized vests from Digital Out of Home of Alvin Carranza was particularly welcomed by their eventual beneficiaries, members of the MMDA Special Task Force, Operations, and the EDSA Special Traffic and Transport Force. The NLEX Corporation announced the opening of the new Balagtas northbound entry to motorists. This allows motorists going northbound from Balagtas and Bulacan entry to the NLEX without need to go to the Santa Rita interchange in Giginto, Bulacan. The NLEX says not only will the new entry improve traffic flow but also productivity in Balagtas in nearby communities. NLEX is also working on opening the Tambobong interchange in Bocaue, Bulacan. Farther north, the company held formal groundbreaking ceremonies for the expansion of the Subic Freeport Expressway, or SFX. After the groundbreaking, the NLEX also held a ceremonial tree planting rite to signify that it would plant new trees for every tree uprooted to make way for the SFX expansion. Targeted for completion by September 2020, the SFX expansion projects add 2 more expressway lanes, 2 bridges, as well as a new tunnel to increase road capacity in both directions. LED lights will also be installed along the new expansions. Ilocos has seen a growth in population and a rise in the number of tourists visiting the region. There is now a demand for better and more modes of transportation, including taxi services. To meet this new demand, the LTFRB has issued new franchises to operate taxi services to Ilocos Transport Co-op and Troy Darren Express with 15 units each. This is another manifestation of the government's efforts to push its PUV modernization program. During a forum organized by the SPMJ, Department of Trade and Industry Undersecretary for Innovation and Competitiveness, Rafaelita Aldaba, said the government is promoting the use and local manufacture of electric vehicles. The objective is to develop an EV ecosystem. Developing a strong EV sector is a priority of government, she told in the forum. On the final day of the third quarter, a transport strike was undertaken by some groups still opposing the government's PUV modernization program. These groups remain adamant that the PUVMP is aimed at ridding the country of their beloved iconic jeepney, endangering their livelihood, and was in the main anti-poor. They said the new modern PUVs being peddled by government were too expensive. What happens when they end up not being able to pay for the loans to acquire them? Still, other transport groups and cooperatives led by Pasang Masda refused to join the transport strike, but instead held an assembly on the day of the strike itself to inform the general public and the drivers and operators being misled by the strikers about the benefits of the PUVMP, and to testify that many of its members and other jeepney cooperatives are now enjoying the benefits of the PUVMP.
A lot happened in the third quarter of the year. Alas, much of it manifested an underlying theme for 2019, a dilemma facing government, solutions that exacerbate before solving problems.
Still, there were achievements to celebrate. Will there be more? Find out when we return after this break.
This Motoring Today year-end special episode is brought to you by Honda Cars Philippines, Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Prudential Guarantee, Suzuki Philippines, and Toyota Motor Philippines.
The things that make my day. My mini-me. My kind of jam. My passion. My blend of coffee. My inspiration. That's all good with the all-new Vios. My Vios, my drive.
Suzuki all-new Ertiga.
Life is beating fast. Find what you're waiting for.
Seven-seater in style. All-new Ertiga debut.
Welcome back to our review of the year that was in motoring.
It's time to see what happened in the last quarter of the year.
Heading into the last quarter of the year, DOTR officials, led by Transport Secretary Art Tugade, met with local government executives and officials in Bulacan, led by Governor Daniel Fernando, to allay their concerns about the effects of the national government fast-tracking railway projects in the province. Secretary Tugade reported that construction for the PNR rail line from Tutuban in Manila to Malolos in Bulacan was 2 to 3 months ahead of schedule, as part of efforts to attain partial train operation by the fourth quarter of 2021. He also reported that the bidding process for the PNR Clark Phase 2 project was for a rail line from Malolos to Clark in Pampanga was well underway, with government now evaluating bids submitted by 9 international and 2 local companies. At the meeting, Bulacan officials aired their concerns about the railway projects. Among the pressing concerns were the relocation of families displaced by the railway line construction and traffic congestion. Also, Bulacan officials requested for the design of train stations to reflect the history and culture of the towns or communities where they are located. And by the way, if anyone is still unsure about the quality of Philippine National Railways management, services and operations, the state-owned railway is now a proud owner of ISO 9001-2015 certification from the Certification International Philippines Incorporated. Audited for certification was the following PNR scope of activities: repair, rehabilitation, restoring, and maintenance of railway system, train control and rolling stock maintenance, and station operation and related services. In the last quarter of the year, traffic congestion in Metro Manila may have gone from worst to worst, that someone had the bright idea of holding the Road and Traffic Expo to find solutions. What better way to bring together government authorities overseeing traffic management and road safety together with the private sectors suffering from traffic congestion and the ills it brings to discuss solutions than an expo? A trade expo participated in by companies or groups offering products and services that might help ease congestion, minimize its effect on the economy and society, or to just make it less stressful for motorists and, yes, the commuters. Angkas, the motorcycle ride-hailing app, of course had to be at the expo. It is now a popular app, especially among the young, needing to get to work on time even with traffic congestion at its worst. Angkas representative George Rieka was a resource speaker at the expo and talked about the need for greater collaboration between government and the private sector to provide safer and efficient transport options. Angkas is operating in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu on a 6-month trial run by the government Fiat. It regularly submits reports about its operations to the DOTR in the hopes that by the end of the 6-month run, Congress will be convinced to enact laws to legalize motorcycle taxi operations. Also at the expo, resource speaker Ariel Lim, former presidential assistant on transport affairs, identified 3 vital steps to alleviating traffic congestion. The first is education that centers on inculcating discipline among private motorists, PUV drivers, and pedestrians. The second is political will in enforcing traffic rules and regulations, as well as ordinances such as no parking zones, speed limits, removing obstructions on sidewalks, among others. Third is developing a mass transport rail network that will encourage motorists to leave cars at home and use public transport. Another traffic expert named Ariel, Mr. Ariel Inton, Quezon City traffic czar, also is making the rounds of media to discuss solutions to the traffic woes of the metro. Inton suggests that Commonwealth Avenue faces the same problems as EDSA and believes both can learn from the other on best practices for alleviating traffic congestion and keeping traffic flowing. The Children's Road Safety Park in Adriatico, Manila was a brilliant initiative to educate children from toddler age and up about traffic rules, signs, and safe practices on the road, on what to watch out for, where and how to safely cross roads. The park, on a 4,600 square meter lot, had everything from mini replicas of roads, intersections with line markings, and traffic signs, as well as a school, hospital, and church. To get more people to bring kids to the park to learn about road safety and traffic, the MMDA, OWISHI, and the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry relaunched the park with some additions meant to make it more attractive, fun, and convenient for children. 3 pavilions designed with children in mind will provide them shade while listening to lectures on road safety. The park is open to the public for free from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Sunday except Wednesday. Walk-in visitors of at most 15 at a time are welcome, while groups numbering more need to write a letter addressed to the MMDA chairman to request a visit at the park. The final quarter of the year saw management and operations moving to open the first sections of the Cavite-Laguna Expressway to motorists. This include the sections starting from the Mamplasan barrier and passing through the Laguna Technopark interchange to Laguna Boulevard interchange and up to the Santa Rosa Tagaytay interchange. Opening all 3 sections to motorists will help spur growth in trade and tourism in Laguna and Cavite. aside from cutting travel time through the two provinces, according to DPWH Secretary Mark Villar. The CALEX will showcase technologically advanced features such as automatic license plate recognition system, IP-based speed detection cameras, and high-definition CCTV cameras, covering the entire stretch of the expressway. A dry run of sorts was conducted during the Undas break when motorists were allowed to pass the open sections of CALEX for free. You know, the motoring year is nearing its end when government agencies and the private sector gear up for another mass exodus of vehicles and people to the provinces for Undas. Another long holiday break when people troop to cemeteries and memorial parks all across the nation to visit and honor the dear departed, or just go to the beach. This includes the MPTC resurrecting all its Safe Trip Mo Sagot Ko Motorist Assistance Program initiatives at the NLEX, SCTEX, and Cavitex. A surer sign is when MMDA dusts off another Christmas traffic management plan, which basically is last year's plan with a few tweaks and a cute new moniker. No cute moniker for this year, but basically the same coordination with mall owners and operators on more personnel as traffic guides, new open and closing times, nighttime deliveries of perishable items, removal of obstructions around the vicinity of malls. Then, there's the suspension of road blocking and repairs, although government flagship projects are exempt from the suspension. At the same time, the MMDA outed itself as an active enforcer of the Safe Spaces Act that seeks to protect individuals of all genders and sexual orientations from sexual and other forms of harassment in all public and private spaces as well as online. MMDA Chairman Danny Lim said its constables and frontline personnel will actively do their part to address sexual harassment on the street. He said the MMDA CCTVs, more are to be installed, will be used to deter and apprehend not only traffic violators but also sexual offenders. In the final quarter of 2019, NLEX Corporation appointed DM Consunji Incorporated as the main contractor for civil construction works for Section 1 of the NLEX Connector Road. DMCI will be responsible for all civil works running from C3 Road in Caloocan to España Boulevard in Manila. With the appointment of DMCI, construction will begin by the end of November. The NLEX Connector Road is an elevated expressway that starts from the Caloocan interchange at the 5th Avenue C3 junction, passes over España, and eventually connects to the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3 at PUP Santa Mesa. Around 35,000 motorists, especially cargo truck drivers, are expected to benefit from the project when completed in 2021. Isuzu Philippines continues to be an active participant in the government PUV modernization program, turning over 17 Isuzu PUVs to the Metro Valenzuela Transport Service Cooperative. Assembled using the Isuzu QKR77 platform with a rear body designed and manufactured by Almazora Motors Corporation, the units are air-conditioned Class 2 PUVs with a side-facing seat configuration. In a separate ceremony led by Isuzu Philippines President Hajime Koso, the company turned over 15 of its modern PUVs to the PM Jeepney Drivers and Operators Service, Inc. The turnover ceremony was attended by top officials of the DOTR, led by Transport Secretary Art Tugade, LTFRB board members Ronaldo Corpus and Antonio Guardiola, LTFRB NCR Director Zona Tamayo, and LTFRB Technical Division Head Joel Bolano. Also in attendance was Obet Martin, President of Pasang Masda, one of the steadfast supporters of the PUVMP. A simple turnover attended by top government honchos and head of an influential transport group served to show government's resolve to attain the objective of the PUVMP to modernize the transport sector. First known as the Ciudad de Victoria Interchange when it had its groundbreaking during the first quarter of the year, and later on as Philippine Arena Interchange, DPWH and NLEX Corporation officials led its opening just before the start of the Southeast Asian Games in the country. The said road junction is an 80 lineal meter bridge that is seen to improve mobility and accessibility on the east side of the province of Bulacan. Disiplina Iya, a civility campaign encouraging airport users to be good airport citizens and to raise awareness about good manners and right conduct, has been launched by the Manila International Airport Authority. The campaign aims to correct many issues and problems airport users are dissatisfied about in the airport. These include following the rule of the yellow lines, proper queuing, and following airport security protocols, picking up one's trash, and taking back one's bag so that someone can take a seat, among others. Also during the fourth quarter of the year, the DOTR finally publicly addressed claims that Metro Manila and other major urban centers and the country itself face a massive transportation crisis. According to the agency, the country's roads, infrastructure, and transportation network is 20 years behind in terms of demand capacity. At the moment, it cannot accommodate the transportation needs of the population, much less than trade and industry and the volume of vehicles on the road in major urban centers. However, the DOTR said that government is doing everything it can to avert the so-called crisis, citing government's Build, Build, Build program. But all the Duterte administration can do is employ a catch-up plan to expedite the completion of various transport infrastructure projects in the aviation, railways, road, and maritime sectors. This includes, among others, the construction of the Metro Manila Subway, MRT-7, LRT-1 Cavite Extension, LRT-2 East Extension, PNR Clark Phase 1, Common Station, PNR Calamba, PNR Bicol, LRT-2 West Extension, Subic Clark Railway, and the Mindanao Railway.
Well, that was the fourth and final quarter of the year that was in motoring.
We'll wrap up this special year-end edition of Motoring Today following this break.
This Motoring Today year-end special episode is brought to you by Honda Cars Philippines, Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Prudential Guarantee, Suzuki Philippines, and Toyota Motor Philippines.
Mitsubishi Xpander. Drive your ambition. Mitsubishi Motors.
The things that make my day. My mini-me. My kind of jam. My passion. My blend of coffee. My inspiration. That's all good with the all-new Vios. My Vios, my drive.
Welcome back to Motoring Today's year-end special on the year that was in motoring. A look back into events, issues, and happenings affecting motoring and motorists in the year 2019. The year was a rough one for all of us, the general motoring public. But we at Motoring Today have always been proactive at taking a positive attitude even in the most trying of times.
Yes, finally, authorities have acknowledged the massive transportation crisis claims. But with acknowledgement comes resolve to go ahead with the Build, Build, Build projects aimed at averting the so-called crisis. Major rail network extending north and south of Metro Manila, interlinked light rail transit systems in the metropolis, elevated toll roads with the metro seamlessly linked the expressways in the north and to the south, all under construction and bring fast track to completion. Also positive is how transport groups have begun to embrace government's PUV modernization program. Yes, there's still some oppositions, but cooperatives are being formed. More and more modern PUVs compliant with government standards are now being seen flying new routes. Government is seemingly more open to new modes of transport services. Angkas getting accepted by the public and then accommodated by transport authorities, much like how Uber and later Grab became an indispensable transport service for more and more commuters. Road safety and protection of the environment seem to be an indispensable part of every conversation about motoring, thanks perhaps to efforts of the EVAP and yes, the SPMJ. If the number of e-bikes on roads are any indication, people are now accepting battery-powered vehicles as practical options for personal mobility.
And some mayors may have finally seen the light. that voters are beginning to appreciate streets and sidewalks cleared of obstructions. What was it that one traffic management expert said was needed? Yes, political will. But the traffic. The traffic is getting worse and worse. Yes, that seems to be the case. Well, much of that is caused by work being done to upgrade road networks with elevated expressways and put in place a more efficient light rail transport system. Perhaps proponents of projects now under construction, some to be completed and operational by next year or 2 years from now, are right about how all these will help ease traffic congestion once completed. The optimistic side of Motoring Today is hoping this is true, and we can't wait to see what happens in the new year and when road repairs and rehab bridges are finally done.
On that note, we thank you again for joining us for Motoring Today's year-end special on the Year to Us in Motoring. On behalf of our dad, Coach Gamboa, I'm Ray Louie Gamboa.
And I'm Susie Gamboa. Here's wishing for one and all a trouble-free new year of Happy Motoring!